Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining us today for our complimentary webinar, proudly brought to you in partnership with Enghouse Interactive, as Auscontact's national silver sponsor. And we're really proud of this partnership because Enghouse has actually been a partner for almost a decade now, and so we're really excited to bring you this content. This is the second session in our CX Buyers Guide series, where we'll look at AI, automation and analytics, which are the technologies that are topping every CX leader's agenda. Today's discussion will help you cut through the hype and focus on really what is going to drive value and growth. In the spirit of reconciliation, Auscontact acknowledges the traditional custodians of the country throughout Australia and their connections to land, waters and community. We pay our respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to all First Nations people joining us today. Our webinar will run for approximately 60 minutes, and I'd like to welcome our special guest, Chris Puxty. And Chris will take you through the content, and we hope to spark your thinking, share practical ideas that you can take back to your business, and of course, we'll wrap up with Q&A at the end. My name is Jed Smith, and I'm the chairperson of Auscontact, and I'll be your moderator for today. I'm stepping in for Fran, who unfortunately is unwell, but I'm delighted to be here with you. So while we wait a moment for everyone to log in, let me run through some quick housekeeping. There'll be no need to scribble down notes, for example. You'll receive the recording after today's session. And the more you interact with us during the webinar, the more you're going to get out of it. To take part in the Q&A, and you will notice on screen that we have the Q&A display, you can send through your questions or comments for Chris and I at any time. We'll have a dedicated Q&A at the end, so type them in as you go so you don't forget to ask. If you're listening through headphones or speakers and run into any tech issues, just click the raise hand button and the Auscontact team will jump in to help. You can also refer to your registration confirmation email. All the dial-in numbers and access codes are there if you're having trouble logging in today. I'd now like to introduce our guest speaker for today, Chris Puxty, who is the Sales Director at Enghouse Interactive. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. So I'd now like to pass to you for you to take us through the content, and we'll finish with the Q&A.
Thanks, Jed. Hi, my name's Chris Puxty. I'm the Sales Director for Enghouse Interactive Asia. I've been working in the communications and contact center industry for over 20 years now. My territory stretches from Taiwan through to India. Working in Asia provides me some unique perspectives on how AI is implemented across the region that we sometimes don't see in Australia and New Zealand. For those unfamiliar with Enghouse Interactive, I'd like to give you just a brief introduction of what we do. Enghouse Interactive is one of 5 divisions of the Enghouse Systems Limited, a publicly traded Canadian-based software and services provider that serves solutions across the industry. Enghouse Interactive is a division dedicated to customer experience solutions and technologies. Enghouse is one of the largest CX portfolios in the industry, and we've acquired many new solutions over recent years. Each new product line we acquire is integrated into our CX portfolio and further developed to expand our feature set. Our development teams are located all around the world, including our communication center product team based right here in ANZ. To give you an idea of what we do, our solutions fit neatly into the contact center and customer service space. But many of our tools have a wider application for business, such as call accounting, recording and quality management, and of course, artificial intelligence. With Enghouse AI in particular, Enghouse Interactive is confident we can help transform the traditional contact center from a cost center to a powerful growth engine. Now, artificial intelligence is reshaping customer experience, but it's important to cut through the hype. The value of AI is in the way it can empower agents and managers to perform at their best. For agents, that might mean real-time coaching during a call, automated call summaries, or instant access to knowledge, so they don't have to fumble through for answers. This reduces stress, improves confidence, and helps deliver a better experience for customers. For business leaders and managers, AI takes the mountains of data generated in every contact center, such as calls, emails, and chat, and turns it into actionable insights. Instead of reviewing a tiny sample of interaction, the business now has the ability to learn from 100% of customer engagements across every channel. This means you can find trends, uncover root causes of repeat contact and failure demand, and make improvements that have measurable business impact. At Enghouse, we believe in practical, responsible AI. It's not about chasing the latest buzzwords. It's about using AI to make real improvements to your customer experience while ensuring transparency, security, and compliance. AI must be a partner to your business that enhances human capability, not something that creates more risk and complexity. One of the areas AI can help an organization make the biggest improvements in customer experience is by reducing failure demand in the contact center. So what's failure demand? Put simply, failure demand is when customers make extra contact with the contact center because the organization has failed to deliver in some way. Sometimes this is due to a failed resolution in the contact center, but often it's a fault of another part of the organization. Now, according to Contact Babel analysis, a staggering 80 to 90% of incoming contact center interactions are caused by issues that customers have with the wider business as a whole. Some common reasons for failure demand can result from maybe a faulty product, maybe a promised action by the business that just didn't take place, unannounced product changes, maybe website information or instructions that are unclear or misleading, or perhaps incorrect billing, or I've had it before, simply a bill that just doesn't make sense. Cutting failure demand reduces call volumes. It frees capacity, reduces costs, but more importantly, improves customer trust. Now we understand failure demand, consider this. AI that helps you and reduce failure demand is AI that drives business-wide gains. It listens to customer engagement and identifies issues, stopping future occurrences before the fallout reaches your agents. It services patterns across channels and enables leaders to take proactive action, not just reactive triage. It can help identify processes that are ripe for automation, as well as those that require improvement before they're considered as targets for your AI. Now, AI directly addresses failure demand. It helps organizations get it right the first time, can fix broken processes, but more importantly, reveals the patterns that leadership can act on. This is where we can see real return on investment from AI adoption. Now, I kind of consider many of you have actually been in a situation where you've dealt with failure demand. Whether it's something I've had situations where I've had a bill come into my inbox, I've looked at the bill and I've gone, why is my water bill so high? Turns out I had to ring the call center. They ran me through the bill and pointed out that I'd actually had an estimation on my water bill, not an actual reading. It was simply a fact that the water company didn't bother sending someone out to my house to look at my water meter. They made an estimation that was horribly inaccurate. But more importantly, they did it month after month. Now, if they had actually sent a human out to have a look at my water bill, I wouldn't have had that problem. So by looking at failure demand and where it occurs in your business, we can actually reduce those contact center interactions. But more importantly, we can make it more efficient for your agents to work. Now, where to start? In my next slides, I'll discuss an approach that delivers both quick wins and long-term gains with ongoing benefit. One of the biggest challenges with AI is knowing where to start. There are so many possibilities, from real-time coaching to analytics to self-service, but not every organization is ready for everything at once. This is why we recommend a simple prioritization framework built around 3 key lenses. The first, look at business pain points. What's costing you the most right now? Is it repeat contact? Is it failure demand? Is it perhaps long handling times in the contact center? Or maybe there's blind spots in the quality of services that are delivered out to customers. We recommend anchoring the AI investment to a clear problem, not just a piece of technology. Second, assess where the value potential or the return on investment, or maybe both, are likely to come from. Some AI capabilities deliver quick wins, like summarization and reducing the after-call work for agents, while others are more strategic, like analytics that reshape how you design services for the business. The key to balancing quick returns with long-term improvement and real business transformation is making sure that assessment and of that value potential is accurate and considered. Now, the third point is consider feasibility and readiness. Do you have the right data to inform your decisions? Are your systems integrated enough to make AI work? More importantly, do your teams have the skills to adopt AI? Hindsight is teaching us the biggest barrier may not be the technology itself, but whether the organization is ready for it. Now, by filtering these opportunities through these lenses, your pain points, your value potential, and your feasibility, you can build a roadmap that delivers impact step by step, rather than trying to achieve the impossible dream. Now, we frame Enghouse AI around 2 main pillars to drive improvements in the contact center: productivity and insights. I'll be going into a bit more detail on these features as we go on, but essentially, productivity is about supporting the frontline teams, your agents. Here we're about helping agents achieve more without expecting them to do more. This means automation tools, as well as providing more in-call assistance. Meanwhile, insights is about providing the contact center owners and the executive with an understanding of how customers perceive the business or where issues may lie. It's where AI takes interaction and feedback data and converts it into information the business can use, including actionable recommendations. So, what does an AI implementation journey look like? In the next slides, I'm going to cover some fundamental functions that AI can deliver to the contact center, but I'm going to frame them as part of what we see as an AI implementation journey. Now, assist is the first step in this journey. This is where we're delivering some of those agent productivity improvements I mentioned earlier. Now, gaining insight is the next critical step in any AI journey. This is where we lead to automation and, more importantly, productivity. Now, some vendors that I deal with, especially in my region, sort of recommend customers dive headlong into automation, as this is where they believe the most productivity gains can be made. Key thing to remember is, yes, they can be. However, poorly implemented processes in the business leads to poorly implemented automation, which will only amplify the issue of pre-existing demand failure. Think about it. How many times have you ended up in one of those never-ending chat loops where you're never getting the answer you require because of a poorly implemented chatbot solution? It's happened to me many, many, many times. You inevitably either give up or you pick up the phone and ring the contact center. In many instances, chatbots are the first foray for an organization into AI, as this is pretty much what the business understands is the basis for AI automation. Now, if an organization believes their business processes are perfect, then by all means, jump into AI automation sooner rather than later. You can get those quick wins. But Enghouse believes a more considered approach is recommended. Getting things right before unleashing automated AI is a critical step. Now, let's look at some of these assistive AI technologies. Transcription is typically the basis for the rest of AI functions. Once we have your communication in text form, we're then able to use the AI tool sets. Now, poor quality transcription is where many AIs fail, as inaccurate transcription leads to poor outcomes for many of the other AI functions. In Asia, where I mostly work, I've seen many AI vendors' implementations fail because of poor transcription as a result of large language models that just don't understand local languages or dialects, or maybe even when sort of different accents when English is spoken. Once we have the interactions in text form, we can then use summarization to automatically write up 4-line summary of each customer engagement. This can be dropped into maybe a CRM solution or the customer's record in a back-end system. But more importantly, the same summarization tools can identify key follow-up items or tasks that need to be undertaken at the end of a call. For an agent, this not only saves them the after-call work time, but it also improves consistency and accuracy. It allows the agents to focus on what the customer is saying and not manically sitting there trying to take notes during a call. We can also provide in-call support to agents via AI. Now, AI-enabled agent coaching monitors agent interactions for things like stress level, for tone and crosstalk, and notifies the agents when they can better control the interaction. It flags script adherence concerns in real time, offers questions that maybe an agent can ask customers, but provides extensive reporting tools to help supervisors identify any follow-up needs with a particular agent, or more importantly, the contact center as a whole. For multinational or global contact centers offering chat to customers, real-time chat translation is a valuable tool for organizations where several languages are spoken. It means agents can respond naturally to their own language, whilst the customer is able to use their language of choice. Think of it, the AI sits in the middle of the conversation, translating the conversation for both parties. Maybe you've got a US contact center that's delivering services out globally. You might have an agent that's speaking English in the US, but you might have a customer in Brazil, for instance, who's actually speaking Portuguese. Either party can actually speak their native language, and it's the AI that does the hard work in the middle. It not only promotes a personalized and efficient customer interaction, It also reduces the resource cost of having dedicated language experts to support a small body of customers. Now, a critical improvement in agent productivity is through knowledge assistance. Knowledge Assistant automatically offers agents relevant suggested responses during a call, derived from internal information stores, rather than forcing agents to look for relevant information when a customer asks a question. How many times have you been on a call, you've asked a particular question, and then you hear the agent madly tapping for 30 seconds to a minute to try and find an answer for the question that you want? Pretty much the AI actually has already interrogated those internal systems, and the AI is going and bringing back the contextual answer to the customer's questions, which is relevant, it's verified, and more importantly, you're minimizing the risk of misinformation that's shared with the customer, and again, reducing that further failure demand. So I think you can see all of those technologies are there making the agent's life easier. Now, the other side of the if you like, pre-requirement for automation is this idea of insights. So how can AI insights help the business? If your supervisors are spending a lot of time on interaction scoring based only on a fraction of interactions, then consider AI interactions evaluation. Instead of just sampling a few interactions a month, the AI will analyze all of your interactions consistently and without bias. Most important. The AI will score each interaction against your own custom scorecards. So if you've already got a manual process that you use for scoring an agent evaluation, we don't use that term anymore, but interaction evaluation, we can take those scorecards and implement them in an AI setting. This means you're going to get a full picture of an agent performance, but more importantly, you're going to have an understanding of where agent improvements can be made. Now, with voice of the customer insights, you can again cover off all of your interactions, but this time you're looking from a customer's perspective. Over time, you can see and understand what's on top of the mind of your customers. You can detect trends and why customers are calling into your contact center. You can use this information to mitigate churn risks. But more importantly, you can identify these root causes of failure demand. And there's many, many other things that you can do with your customer insights. On a more positive note, you can actually find out what customers do like, so you can do it more. And more importantly, you can highlight the great examples of customer service in your team. Now, it's important to remember that voice of the customer is an enterprise tool. It's not just feedback for the contact center. Because your insights are about the business, your products, and your services, not just your team's activities. When I talk a little later on about integrating and how we go about implementing your AI, the voice of the customer tools are going to be imperative. Now, lastly, something that's not really considered in contact centers much, but is becoming more relevant, is this idea of voice of the employee insights. These are 100% transparent, interactive, and context-based. Now, unlike voice of the customer insights, where we're obtaining the information from the interaction data, employee insights are based on data collected from surveys of your staff that they've actually actively participated in. Now, where does the AI fit in here? Now, once we have this data, the AI engine can then be used to analyze it, thus helping you identify and understand employees' concerns, maybe their sentiment, and see where trends are in terms of how they're handling calls. But more importantly, the voice of the employee insights can assist with building action items for follow-up with your staff and your team, or perhaps sharing to the greater business. Now, the reason why gaining insights is the second step before automation is because it informs the business of the next steps in your AI journey. As I mentioned, preparation is the key to successful AI implementation. Truly accessible AI, and that means I really mean generative AI here, hasn't been around all that long, but already there's a ton of research and some horror stories being collected about AI implementations gone wrong. There's a general message it's where organizations have rushed into automation without the right preparation. Now, it doesn't mean the AI is too hard to be worthwhile. As research shows, rewards are massive when it's done right. Instead, the most important thing I can say to you today is understand what you need, get it working correctly as a manual process, and then look at automation. Now, I can't reiterate strongly enough, automating a process that is working poorly is only going to amplify the issues. And subsequently, it's going to amplify the failure demand and increase the calls into your contact center. Now, I also cannot stress enough the fallout of doing AI wrong. It's not just the immediate impacts to business, it's also the impact on your business, your brand, and possibly your bottom line. It's the fact that poorly implemented AI builds a resistance that may not have been there before, both internally and externally. It makes it much, much harder to try and implement AI down the track, even when you're finally ready to do it well. So finally, let's look at AI automation. Now, virtual agents are effective when they're used for transactional things. Things like checking account balances, processing refunds, or booking appointments. This is where customers want speed and accuracy rather than empathy. And I'm sure you've used existing services with organizations before, where pretty much these virtual agents work very well. Now, conversational virtual agents or chatbots allow for customer access into an organization's publicly available information and knowledge. The real power comes when chatbots are combined with generative AI in what I can kind of consider the true automated virtual assistants. Now, sometimes the customer is unaware of whether they're speaking to a human or AI. And this is probably where you're going to see the most appropriate or the best implementation of automated AI. Now, keep in the back of your mind that automation frees human agents to focus on the complex or emotional issues where they add value. And this is what AI cannot emulate. Key is, as I mentioned previously, implementing insights before these steps allow you to properly understand the tasks that are the best ones to automate with AI. Your first foray into AI automation should be low risk, something you know the business does well. Now, blending AI with human agents is really effective. This doesn't just mean taking what is a virtual assistant or a chatbot to a human agent when human skills are needed. Human agents can also hand customers back to a virtual agent for routine requests, while still providing those human-like responses. The key thing when you do this, you need to explain clearly to the customer that I'm handing over to an AI. Let the AI do its work and potentially hand the call back to the human agent. We don't do that, customers get a bit unnerved, and that's where we start to see pushback from the AI. Now, there are two fundamental factors that are driving the growth of AI adoption and automation. The first one is the rising cost of contact center interactions. And I think all the people in this call today will have noticed over the past, especially 5 years, where contact centers have become expensive to run. Now, the second major improvement is the chatbot technology. Now, as we've seen, Today's virtual agents hold more natural conversations and handle more complex tasks than ever. Done well, virtual agents boost efficiency, can cut costs, but more importantly, improve your customer satisfaction. And I think that's the key message for any company or any organization embarking on this AI journey. It's all about improving customer satisfaction. Whilst it's good to save money in the contact center, if your customers aren't happy and you've implemented poor AI, you're potentially going to lose that customer. How are we going, Jed?
Great.
Lots
Cool. Thank you.
on there.
What amazing content. And I think that's absolutely wonderful to hear all of the experience and practical tips that you've provided people there. Just a reminder to all of those on the webinar today, the Q&A function is available to actually ask some questions. So if you just look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the Q&A and you'll have the ability to ask any questions that you have while you have Chris here from Enghouse Interactive. It's always important to have, while we've got the experts, to take advantage of them. So let's just start. What was going through my head through the whole process of this, and really the understanding of, and I know you probably covered it, but how do I know I can trust someone that I want to partner with on an AI or automation journey?
So I'll talk a bit about that later on, but trust is one of those things where it's imperative to have an understanding of who you're dealing with when it comes to AI. Now, AI services typically have to be delivered from a cloud because a lot of especially when we're talking generative AI or large language models, it relies on a lot of compute, a lot of technology that is expensive to deploy. So it's not as if a customer is going to build their own large language models inside of their organization. Customers and organizations have to understand their data is going to the cloud. It's going to an AI provider or an AI vendor that will be processing that data on your behalf. Now, probably the key thing to be asking your vendor is, number one, how is that data handled? What are they doing with it? If the vendor cannot explain what they're doing with your data when they receive it, how they're storing it, more importantly, how they're processing with it, I'd be raising questions with the IT department or the people who are making these executive decisions about the AI provider we're going with. I've seen, there's a number of well-known publicly documented examples where contact center vendors with AI tool sets have taken customer data and without the knowledge of the customer data, use that to train their own AI. Now, if it's in some sort of standard terms and conditions agreement that you're allowing them to use the customer data, yeah, great. You've recognized and the business has recognized that your data is going to be sent to the cloud. It's going to be processed. It's going to be used to develop their large language models or their generative AI services, and you've got to accept that. The key concern is when there is no explicit statement in these terms and conditions agreement, and then you find out later on that, hey, my data's been used to train their AI without our knowledge. In a lot of scenarios, especially where you're dealing with third-party customer data, and a lot of contact centers that are maybe a shared resource or a hosted contact center, they're taking data from customers that the customer may not want their personal information shared into one of these AI vendors and some of these large language models. So it becomes it's a kind of a tricky arrangement where you've got to understand what your customers are willing to share with you, and then what you can then share with the AI vendor or the AI provider. So it just comes down to asking the questions. How are you handling my data? What are you doing with it? Where are you storing it? And is it being used to train your AI models?
Yeah, great. That's really good advice. Secondly, the question that was going through my head as someone who, has worked in a number of organizations with broken processes, what What kind of advice can you give to everyone to talk about how do they even know if their process is broken? Are there any indicators that can really help them before they try and automate that process?
So this is where your contact center is for a lot of instances, it's that first point of call for your business. And this is where I mentioned those voice of the customer insights. Like we can use those voice of the customer insights to build things like heat maps. So in other words, if maybe you've launched a new product, or you've made a change to a company policy, if you start seeing through these heat maps some of these words like failure, like incorrect information, appear in some of these heat maps, it's sort of a starting point for that discussion inside of the business is what's causing this increase in calls. If it's a situation where maybe some of your response times are blowing out or the conversation duration is blowing out, it's then time to look at what the conversation is actually happening between your customer and your agent. It could be that something like a simple bill change, like I'm a Vodafone customer, and 2 months ago they changed the way my bill was laid out. Frustrated as hell, it took me about 20 minutes to understand what they'd now done with my new bill. But for a lot of people, that would have meant an unnecessary call into the contact center. So in that situation, it's like if there's a trend that happens and you're seeing this in voice of the customer, it's kind of a really good indication to the business that something is going wrong. Now, the problem in a lot of instances is a lot of the voice of the customer stuff is seen by the supervisor. It's the supervisor's responsibility to then share that information with the greater business. Now, in large organizations, that can be challenging. So it could be, hey, we're seeing a particular trend with a particular product or a particular service we offer. It's a matter of then going to the team that looks after that service, working with them to identify what the issue is, and then leveraging that part of the business to go and say, look, we need to fix a process here. It's impacting us as a contact center. It's causing more unnecessary calls that from a simple broken workflow or a broken function that can be easily repaired.
Great. Well, that's all really, really good advice. And thank you for sharing. I guess now I'll just have a quick look and see if we've had any questions come through. And at this stage, we haven't had any questions come through. So if I was to take the next step in the process, where would I start? Chris, for me, brand new in an organization, and what do you think I should do first?
So let's move on to the next slides. And I can explain this absolutely perfectly for you. So now we've got a clear idea of where deploying AI and automation tools will bring real efficiencies and value. It's time to look about how we go about this implementation. Now, we have this idea of modular adoption. With Enghouse AI, for example, you don't have to take everything all at once. You can start with one capability, maybe summarization or maybe automated evaluation, and then add more as the needs grow. Maybe it's implementing voice of the customers to see where we can improve the business or improve those workflows. The whole idea of this modular adoption is it reduces risk and allows you to sort of, if you like, prove to the value of the AI to the business in a sort of a step-by-step or a progressive manner. Okay. Next is your system integration. Okay. So AI is sort of not really powerful when it's sitting just in a silo. You've developed your AI, it's doing a particular function, but it's not using the value that sits behind the contact center and the rest of the business. Now, whether you're linking your CRM or your Microsoft Teams environment, or maybe your internal business systems, the goal is to make the AI part of the natural workflow of the business. Now, doing this, agents and managers are going to see the benefits without actually adding any complexity to the business. Now, once you've sort of, if you like, you've developed and understood where you're going to attach your AI to, so to speak, you need to look at this data readiness. Now, and this is where a lot of organizations fail completely. Got to remember that AI is only as good as the data it's built on. Okay. It kind of means making sure you have enough interaction data that's of good quality that the AI can learn from. The AI needs to access some of this internal company data to produce the results the customer requires. If sometimes improving that data hygiene is the first step before turning on your advanced AI features. Now, I need to reiterate the need for sound business processes within the organization, and this involves sort of input from many different departments. It's kind of critical to actually implementing AI successfully. And the one thing to keep in the back of your mind is AI is not just an IT department or a contact center function, okay? It's an organization-wide engagement. You're going to be involving different parts of the business, especially when you're trying to provide that feedback. So we have this, if you like, this adoption cycle that we actually sort of implement when we go and look and work with customers to implement their AI. It starts with piloting, then we're training the AI, then we're iterating, and then we're scaling out. Now, when you're starting with a pilot, you're testing in a safe environment, but more importantly, a non-business critical functional workflow. You're training your people in your AI models, then you're refining based on the feedback that comes from not just your customer, but the business itself. And this is where some of these insights I was talking about earlier come from. And then once you've got it right on that smaller scale, you start scaling out to include more teams in the organization and more of these use cases you have. The key thing is it keeps your risk low. You can provide some really quick wins that build that trust across the organization and some really, really quick results. But the key thing to remember is readiness is more about not just having the latest AI, it's about creating the right foundation so the technology delivers on its promise. And it's one of those things where I've seen a lot of contact center managers, and more so from the senior executive side, there's been this push down from the top of the business to say, we need to implement AI. The supervisors of the contact center see all the demand failure that happens in the business and have to push back up and say, we're not ready for this yet. It's one of those things that, as I mentioned previously, some of these insights tools can be brought into the business, can give those contact center supervisors that knowledge and that understanding of what's going on. So I wouldn't say push back on the executive, but they can actually have that discussion with the executive to say, AI is going to be great for us, but these are the things we have to look at. Now, we're talking about trust earlier. You've got to remember AI has inherent risks associated with it. One of the questions we often hear about artificial intelligence is, can I trust AI here? And as I mentioned before, it's a really important conversation to have. Now, at Enghouse, we view AI not as a replacement for people, but as a partner for people. And I think some people with shock and awe sort of saw ANZ, for instance, getting rid of thousands of its staff, expecting to replace sort of their contact center staff and some of their support staff with AI. Whilst it may look good on the balance sheet, it's possibly not good for their customers. We talk about humans and AI as the dream team, as you can see there. It's one of those things you got to remember, the agent still owns the customer relationship. The AI is just simply helping them to work faster, to work smarter, and to work with more confidence. It's probably key to maintaining that trust with your customers. Now, secondly, we put strong guardrails in place. This means compliance with regulations. and transparency on how results are generated, with a key focus on accuracy. And this is what I was mentioning before. AI shouldn't be just a black box. It needs to be explainable, and it should operate within the standards your business already needs to meet. And that's key. If you've got guidelines and policy around protection of customer data, this has to be addressed with the AI provider you're working with. If you've got fiduciary duties in the financial service industry and privacy concerns, again, this needs to be addressed with your AI provider. Now, our approach is always about business outcomes. A lot of AI projects, and I've seen it many times before, they drift into hype or they just become experiments that never deliver. And I think we're at this point, I kind of think of it, there's a lot of concern around globally of where there's a lot of money being poured into AI. Some of these executives are sitting there scratching your head and wondering where's that return on investment. And this is where we kind of believe that AI initiatives need to be tied to measurable results, whether it's maybe reducing repeat contacts in your contact center, maybe whether it's just simply improving the quality scores around your agent performance, whether it's like cutting handling times, or, as I mentioned previously, reducing the failure demand across the business. Now, when we talk about responsible AI, it's about the trust, your transparency, but more importantly, those tangible value results. Now, this is where AI becomes something organizations can feel confident to invest in, because it's safe, it's practical, and it can make a real difference to the business. Now, a lot of what I've discussed here is actually contained in a failure demand white paper that we've just recently released on your website. So a lot of those themes that I've discussed through this session is based in this white paper. So when we send out the post follow-up for the webinar today, we're going to include a link to this website that you can register. But more importantly, I suggest you have a read of it, not just for yourselves, but take it inside of the business. Prepare your managers, your executives, those that are going to be addressing or looking at AI through the contact center, and let them have a read. Hopefully it'll spark some of those ideas around things that they can look at in their various departments or the business to understand what they need to do to improve not just the life of the contact center agents, but improve the quality of service you can deliver out to customers. So I really recommend having a look at that white paper when you get the chance. Now, finally, we've got a bunch of Enghouse resources that you can actually go and have a look at on our website. There's numerous videos about our AI and how we go about implementing our AI. We've got lots and lots of brochures and resources, as well as a number of case studies up there that are worth having a look at. But more importantly, we've got a team of engineers that can assist you on your AI journey. So by all means, reach out to us for a demo. We're happy to sit down and work out with you what a pilot program would look like, where we can address some of those concerns around AI, or maybe provide you some directional guidance on where our Enghouse AI can assist you in delivering some of the outcomes you're looking for in your contact center. So I'll hand it back to Jed to see if we have any more questions, but thank you guys for listening in, and I'm hoping the information I've actually presented to you has been quite informative.
And Chris, thank you so much for that wonderful content. Just a reminder for those that may have questions, we don't have any questions at the moment, but I've got a couple, Chris, so don't worry, there's plenty there. Thank you so much. And I've already jumped on to the Enghouse interactive resources site. Wow, what a lot of resources that are there. So I'll be downloading papers and looking at ebooks to my heart's content. And simple things like a practical guide to applying AI in customer service. I think they're all really valuable tools that'll make things so much easier for people to use. Look, probably just one or two questions from me while we're waiting to give people some time if they have any questions. What is the biggest misconception that you think you've come across in regards to AI automation or analytics?
A lot of organizations, and I think it comes from the hype of AI, that they believe AI can do everything. And you see a lot of C-level executives sort of looking at media reports and what other businesses are doing and saying they're implementing AI. Why aren't we doing it? Sometimes that hype sort of spills out to the rest of the business, and customers and organizations just dive headlong in, expecting immediate results. It's not going to happen. Typical AI implementation is months, if not years, because as I mentioned earlier, it's about sort of starting small, proving it works in the business, and then expanding out. And sort of AI is one of those things. You have to train AI. AI has to understand your business, what you do, what you deliver, how you go about things. So it's about considering that the AI journey you're about to start ain't going to achieve results in the first couple of weeks. It's going to be one of those things that's going to take months. And in some instances, depending on how complex your business is, it's going to take years. So it's not one of those things you can jump in lightly and go, hey, let's switch on a chatbot and everyone's going to be happy. No, it takes time. It takes a lot of internal support, but there's knowledge required. It's one of those things where I would recommend customers or our customers especially to try and understand what AI is doing, and look at each of those different tools that we offer and seeing how they may fit into the business and where they can derive value from those.
Great, excellent. And thinking about return on investment, because let's face it, whether you're talking to a board or executives, that's the question that they're going to ask.
It's the first.
Yeah. How am I going to make money? It's always really exciting. What cost is it going to save? What would be an example of the biggest impact to a business that you've seen in your journey so far? Do you have an example that you could share with us?
It's got to be efficiencies in the contact center. So it's like summarization is probably one of the biggest, quickest wins you can have. Most organizations, they will have, if you like, a wrap-up time at the end of a conversation where that agent's got to sit there. If it's a 15-minute conversation, they're scratching their head what they talked about in minute 1 and minute 2. But also they're trying to understand what the action items are post-call. So when you've got the AI in the background, providing the summarization, but also flagging those action items, your agents are actually not having to sort of sit there stressing and fretting and manically taking notes, as I mentioned earlier. They're actually focusing on the job at hand. So what tends to happen is that handling time gets reduced, that work time gets reduced, but more importantly, when you take that summarization and put it maybe in a customer service record, when the next transaction for that particular customer comes in, or when there's that action item to be followed up on, that hard work is already done for the agent. So number one, it reduces the handling times, automatic savings there. Number two, you're reducing that agent stress level and burnout. So I don't know how many times I've walked into these massive rooms of hundreds of people in a contact center, and every one of them looks completely frazzled. It's because they're trying to do too much work in too little time with no assistance provided. So just basic things like summarization takes a lot of that stress away, makes them more efficient, but means they can actually handle a lot more calls. So whether that leads to maybe reducing agent count, don't know, prefer not to, but it provides those agents with an opportunity to maybe fulfill their role in a different way, for instance. The other one's the agent evaluation. Now, supervisors, as you know, sort of will sit there and maybe look at 5, maybe 10 calls in a month. So you're seeing this very, very tiny view of what's actually going on in the contact center. Now, by taking what are, if you like, your measures that you use for your agent interaction and setting goals, we take those, apply them to an AI sense. What that then does is means that, as I mentioned previously, we can look at every interaction. So we can see those trends. We can understand where particular agents may need skill improvement. We may be able to identify where we can sort of, again, rectify issues with a particular agent performance. So that then becomes a value to the business because you're improving that quality, especially in an outbound sales role. By improving that quality and by using your evaluation, you're potentially increasing your sales and you're increasing your revenue. So it's small little tweaks to what you do in your business with the AI that can produce some big results down the track.
Great, that's really amazing. Well, look, I'll just check again to see if there's any questions, and it doesn't seem that we have any questions. Is there anything final that you'd like to say or mention to our webinar guests today?
Probably the key message is planning. Is whilst you're going to meet with an AI vendor that's going to say you need to do this, 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 and this, and you're going to get outcome A, B, C, and D, and E, sit down with the business. Sit down and understand what is that process that gets repeated over and over and again, and identify those that can be shifted into as an AI function. Make sure that process is working, it's accurate, it's repeatable through the AI, and then go and implement it. Now, before you go and then implement the next AI tool set, have a look at the results of the first one. Make sure it's giving you the results you need. Make sure the business is on board, more importantly. And then once you've got success with that first selected workflow you moved into AI, move to your second one.
Great.
So step-by-step iteration is probably the best mantra I could actually provide.
Oh, Chris, that's wonderful. And thank you very much on behalf of everyone today. That does bring us to the end of today's webinar, and we hope that the session has given you a lot of fresh ideas and practical takeaways. Certainly, I'm all over the resources already provided by Enghouse Interactive, so look out for the video and the link to make sure that you register for that. A big thank you to you, particularly Chris, for your expertise and for all of your time and answering my questions today. Most of which are really on the spot. I know it's topical and easy to answer some of these questions for you, but I thought I was trying to trick you a little bit there, but got it through. Thank you. Look, we look forward to seeing everyone at our next webinar. Until then, thank you again to Enghouse Interactive and Chris Puxty, and have a great day.
Thanks, Jed. Thanks for everyone for participating.